on this computer. Live on Facebook. Okay. Go live. I'll minimize it.
Live on Facebook. It says it
on
my
right.
end.
Yep, we're live on Facebook, and I'll have to minimize my Facebook so you guys can't hear once it pops up. So, hi everybody. I am doing a Facebook Live with one of my friends from college, Erik Shellenberger. I have found, for me, I am Gwen Peterson, and I'm a certified health coach, and I have had the really great life lesson of finding people in their lives that maybe are not health coaches with me, but they have just kind of figured out how to, if you want to say, get out of their own way and create the success that they would like to see in their life. And so when I was kind of telling Erik that I was thinking about this, I thought, hey, he might be the right guy to start as my first live video. And so basically, I will be creating a Facebook page called Mind Shifts of Success, where you'll be able to see these playbacks. I will be having a YouTube channel, and they will be uploaded to a podcast channel as well. So wanted to introduce you to Erik and tell you a little bit about our history and how we met, because it's such a perfect story of starting to kick off these live stream podcast sessions. So Erik and I, we figured out that I think we met 25 years ago, about probably this week. I came from California up to the University of Utah here in Utah. And so I started summer session right after I graduated from high school, and I met a guy in our class that my roommates and I clicked with. His name was John Ma, and so we started hanging out with him, and in comes Erik. And Erik was not going to the University of Utah. He was a different breed than I was used to, because I was used to go work for the man, get the college education. That's what creates success in life. And so as Erik and I got to be friends, and as you can see, he's a good-looking guy. And for you guys that'll listen to the podcast, you can't see it, but trust me, he's a good-looking guy. But for me, when I remember Erik, our buddy John Ma was like the king of matchmaking. He kept trying to get Erik and I to create a relationship. And my 18-year-old brain was saying, Erik is not going to create success in life, because his goals are not to work corporate America. When I met Erik, he was working probably 3 jobs, had the nicest truck out of anybody that we knew, and he was building the snowboard park the first year. That was the first year I think I met him, that he built the entire snowboard park for Park West, which is now a whole nother Canyons resort in Park City. But my point being that he was the guy that was working, but not getting the education that I was getting. And that was why I never engaged in John Ma's antics to start a relationship, because I couldn't see what he already saw. So it's so perfect that we're circling around today on the 23rd of June, because 4 years ago, I ran into John Ma today up in Park City, and that feed came back up on my Facebook today. And so just kind of fun how life circles back around when you're working on building success in your life. So I wanted to bring Erik on because, as Erik realized, working is just working. You get to, the way I say it, get out of your own way and figure out how to actually create success for yourself. So Erik has a really great marketing business. He can tell you more about that, but I wanted to have Erik come on and tell where we met from college to where he is today, and what shifts he's made along the way to create the success that he wanted to in life. So Erik, with that introduction, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that is such a funny story. Every time I hear it, it brings me back to 25 years ago. That's crazy. But yeah, I was just a little punk kid who didn't really have a lot of respect for we were talking about the man, and that's really what it was. Is I just didn't want to fit into that mold, because back then I think I've always had the same mentality of I want to do it my way, and I want to do everything how I want to do it. I wasn't a big fan of being an employee, even though I have been that entire time. I always thought I could do it better, I could do it bigger, I got it all figured out. Well, turns out back then I really didn't. And just like everybody who's young and stupid, is you think you know everything, and I didn't know anything. And back then, it was really tough to create a business because we didn't have cell phones and internet. We didn't have anything that you can use for free today to get this huge reach like we are right now. And so it was a bit of a disadvantage back then compared to living today. Is awesome. So anyway, so I started businesses. I had an off-road shop in Moab, Utah that I had for about 3 years. And that was the same mentality. I knew I can do it better. I know what I'm doing. And that eventually failed, but I learned so much from it. And that's the first time I had a website. That's the first time I even had an email address, was during that time. So evolved from that, and eventually got into, I've been in and out of the bar business, the restaurant business my entire life. Off-road restaurants and bars is my whole life. So when I got more into restaurants, I started doing restaurant marketing, bar marketing, about a decade ago. And I worked for some pretty big corporate chains as an employee, of course, and learned a lot from that stuff. Learned a lot. I was the marketing director for one of these chains with 13 locations, and I was the marketing department. I was the only guy. So I was the graphic designer. I was the web designer. I was the social media guy. I booked the bands. I did everything for this company. It was crazy, the amount of work that I did at the time, thinking like, why am I doing this? And I don't ever say no. So every time the boss says, hey, can you do this also? Yes, I'll do it. And so he was taking advantage of me, but little did I know, I was learning so much stuff. Now I can do every single aspect of marketing myself. I don't need to get a hold of my team of 10 people. I am the team. So that's helped me considerably. And so anyway, looping back around to where I am now is, with the marketing background, with the social media reach we have today, I've got a pretty extensive friend list on Facebook, not just the number, but actually people that I talk to, people I interact with every day. And there's a marketing event in Phoenix. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. There's a marketing event in Phoenix this weekend, right now, it starts in a couple hours, called Meltdown in the Desert. And it's put on by a friend of mine who I met through, mutual friends. It's an entire weekend of networking, marketing training, and basically getting to know people that I only know through Facebook. And now I actually get to shake their hand and talk to them. It's going to be an awesome experience. This is the second one. I did it last year as well. And things like that helped tremendously. I was able to add as much value as I got from it. So it was a perfect situation.
Good. Well, let me back up, because you said something that I didn't even remember about your past, that you had started that off-road shop and it failed. Tell us about how you felt as a person and what you had to do to get yourself out of that place, because every one of us fails in life. And for you, that obviously was just a bump in the road. It was a major bump in the road, but tell us more about that.
Yeah, so when I had that shop, it was the late 90s that I had that shop, and I only had it for 3 years, and it was doomed to fail regardless, because the population of Moab is so small, and the off-road business is seasonal. So I had every disadvantage in the world, and I was just too hard-headed to see that. Everybody kept telling me, are you sure? Like the season's really, you have the spring and you have the fall, and that's it. And you're going to be dead in the winter, you're going to be dead in the summer. And no, I got it all figured out. So anyway, I did it. And when I finally decided, like I did the math and I was like, look, it's just not in the numbers for this to succeed long term. When I closed it down, I went to work for Four Wheel Parts, which is the biggest nationwide chain of off-road stores in America. It is the man for sure. It's the biggest, you can't get any more corporate than they are. And it was pretty humbling going from working for myself to being, having to clock in at a certain time and be there at a certain time and answer this guy, and why do your numbers look this bad, and blah, blah, blah. And I was a pretty good salesman there. I really was. And I was at the top of the sales guys all the time, but it was because of my drive, and it's because of the knowledge I already had in the business. But that was a really tough transition. And I eventually got back out of that and thinking of, I felt like such a failure. Like, look, I can't do this myself. And I tried it, I failed. I'm just going to slide back into punching a clock for somebody. And I did that for a while. But then once I realized, I got some more training later in life and realized that you've heard it 100 times, is you don't win or lose. Either you win or you learn. You never fail. So that was a learning experience. And that was one of the big shifts for me was, look, I don't have to punch a clock. I do know what I'm doing. And if I stumble, it's going to happen. You're going to stumble. You're going to have failures. You're going to have setbacks. It is a part of learning. It's a part of progress. So it was a good thing that happened.
Good. I love that. I unfortunately seem to find myself writing that saying every time somebody says that: you win or you learn. And wow, that you, like you say, you can look at it as a failure and losing, or you learn. And our company talks a lot about the obstacle is the way, because if you didn't have obstacles, you wouldn't learn. But a lot of people quit in that learning phase, you know? And so tell us then, you went to the bigger chain, you learned a lot. I'm sure, like you say, it was humbling to see what they were doing that you would have done different, because you've already done it. You just didn't figure out how to make it kick out dollar signs. Where did you go from there?
So I got, after that job actually transferred me here to Arizona. And I worked for them for, a couple more years until I figured out, man, yeah, I'm a good salesman. I'm good at connecting with people. I wasn't great yet. I was pretty good. And it was, the automotive business just it's such a fickle industry. And where we were was, you had people that loved you or they hated you. And there was no way to get the haters back. So it was tough. I got back into, and I was, get this, I don't think I told you this, I was a web design intern at 35 years old.
Oh.
Wait,
how old are you now?
What's that?
How old are you now?
Right now. 5 days, I'll be 46.
Oh, we probably celebrated our birthday together. Because what's your birthday?
Yes, June 28th. We did.
That's right, and I'm July 1st. So yeah, I'm sure we did that first year. A lot of that's wiped out of my brain now. That's way too long ago to remember. But yeah, so you said you're 40. What now? Going to be 40.
Going to be 46.
46. Okay, so at 35, you're a marketing intern. So you've had a little bit of growth in the last 11 years.
Yeah. So when I did that, I had a little bit of money, that I could. And I didn't get an income for 6 months, probably 8 months when it was all said and done, because I was an unpaid intern learning web design and graphic design in this little like mom and pop shop. That it was insane. That looking back, it was the best thing I ever did. But at the time, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm 35 years old. I'm not making a dime, and I'm sitting in this this office that's smaller than my living room, and just kind of going through the motions and learning this stuff. But learning the web design was probably the most value I got out of that entire decade. Because if you know how to design a website, if you can use Photoshop and make a flyer, if you have an artistic mind enough to make that stuff, then you're invaluable. You can use those for anything, any business, no matter what business you're going to be in, you're going to need those skills. You either pay for it or you learn it. I didn't want to pay for it. I probably couldn't afford it, so I learned it. And those really were the most valuable things I think I've learned in 10 years. It was insane where that got me. That got me my first job with the first bar that I worked at.
And let me ask you, so while you're working, not getting paid, and I can guarantee that chatter in your brain was massive, that you were 35 years old, not getting paid, how did you, in that multiple months of learning, override the automatic thoughts that most people think of? I'm a loser. Why am I doing this? I'm 35 years old. Like am I correct that you had all that going through your brain?
Oh, of course. Yeah, that was a daily thing, is you're second guessing yourself the whole time. But I knew that I didn't want to go back. I was less miserable being an intern unpaid than I was punching the clock for somebody that I didn't like. I mean, we've all gone to those jobs we hate. When you get up in the morning, you're just like, oh my God, I got to go to that place again. I hate that place. I hate my boss. I hate my coworkers. It's so miserable. It is draining. And I wasn't going to go back to that. That's the one thing I knew there's no way.
So you were going for bust. If you lost everything you had, you weren't going back.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So at that point I did. And one of my kind of rules that I was keeping myself in was, I want to learn something that I can use no matter what industry I get in. No matter what I do, it needs to be marketed. No matter what I do, it's going to need a website. It's going to need, Photoshop flyers. It's going to need all this stuff. So I learned the fundamentals, which was probably a good thing, because I thought I was going to probably stay in the off-road business. But when I got back in the restaurant business, it made so much more sense, because I've got gazillions of potential clients as opposed to a small handful that I could work for in that industry.
Got it. So then you went into marketing. You obviously been working for a company doing marketing to bars and restaurants and all of that. And then based on our prior discussion, you mentioned that while you were happy and making a good income doing what you were doing, you've always been of the mindset, of course, that I can do it better and faster than other people, because you are a driven person at the core, but you didn't know how to get there to do it on your own, right? So you had a big shift, about a year and a half ago?
Yeah, it was about a year and a half ago. And up until that, I was doing okay, but I was doing average. I was average moves with average people. I was just, making 55, 60 grand a year and going to work a 9 to 5. And, it wasn't fulfilling. I wanted more than that. I didn't want to just punch a clock, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. And that just wasn't where I was. So I went to a training, I guess you'd call it like training camp. It was a weekend-long training course for leadership and kind of alpha male training type of stuff. It was called Lions Not Sheep, taught by Sean Whalen, actually in Park City and Salt Lake. So I had to come back to Utah.
Oh, back to the roots.
Yeah, it was actually, it was based out of Jeremy Ranch at the time. So it was right there. So
your backyard of your yellow house in Park City, where all this started.
Yeah. So it was honestly life changing. It was I learned stuff that it's those, you have those mental blocks and all those blocks to progress and all the things that you keep telling yourself, like, I want to do that. I want to live that lifestyle, but I just don't have the skills, or I'm just not that guy, or I'm not that outgoing guy that really wants to connect with people. I want to do my own thing in my own little shell. And that the minute you get taught that you've been that guy the entire time, you just got to let it out, and you got to basically learn how to harness that stuff. And it was the training was half physical. It was straight up fighting guys in an MMA ring. And it was that, what's that saying that Tyson said? He says, I think it was Tyson, Muhammad Ali or Tyson. He says, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
I love it. It's true. So true.
Yeah. I've always loved that saying, because it is so true. And they kind of taught me that, even if you get that proverbial punch in the face, how do you get back up? And it's how you continue that defines you. And that physical part of it really, really helped my mental, walls, and getting out of my little story I've concocted for myself, and being genuine with people. And one of the big things that it taught was just what you teach, is when you're helping others and when you're actually providing value for other people without expecting anything in return. The minute you quit expecting something back, you get rid of the quid pro quo, then you start growing. Because if I'm the expert in my field, I can't expect everybody that I'm teaching some little tidbit to pay me for it. It's just ridiculous. It's not realistic. But not a lot of people think along those lines, except for for minds like us. But it's so easy to get there. A lot of people just can't get to step one.
Right. Well, and so let me ask you, because I went through a similar training about 8 years ago, and I guess for me, I wasn't fighting well, I guess we were fighting other people. Now that I think about it, we were hitting getting the anger out so you could get the anger out of the way to then really look at what was lower. And what I learned about myself, and I'll be curious if you learned this about you, is that the things that I always felt were my weakness were actually my strength. I just didn't know how to use them properly. And am I correct that because like I say, you've always been this powerhouse person, driven, push forward without the stops, but it was coming from a place of anger based on whatever it came from. What did you actually learn about yourself that were the things that actually were holding you back and you didn't even realize it?
It was mostly the whole self-doubt thing. Everybody that doubts themselves, if I doubt myself enough, I'm going to convince myself that I can't do that. And that was something that held me back the longest time. And I get it to this day. Even though I'm in marketing, I'm basically a salesman to some degree. I'm selling marketing tools to bars and restaurants. So I have to talk to people on an authentic level, and I have to be very open and honest and full disclosure all the time. And I have to be, I have to structure it a certain way to where I'm not coming off phony, but every time I don't connect with somebody, like not if they just don't buy my product, but if I don't connect with them and 5 minutes in the conversation, they're just like, look, I'm out. This is not me. And then I start doubting myself again. I'm like, oh man, did I lose it here? Am I not as good as I think I am? And it goes through my head all the time. Every time I get turned down, the self-doubt comes back. And I'm just like, oh, what did I do wrong? Like, how can I fix it? How can I change it? What do I need to modify to fix myself? And you're never, ever going to close 100% for the people out there. There's no chance. So failure is so much a part of sales that if you don't expect to fail in sales, don't get into it. It's never, ever going to be 100%.
Right. Well, and I think it's even in life I don't even think it's about sales. It's about if you decide you want something different. Like I wrote down that you said you knew that you wanted more. You just didn't know how to get there. And whether it's a sales job, whether it's anything, I think most people want more, but that dialogue of when they try and they fail, which failure is inevitable, it's like that saying, it's not about how many punches you can take, it's what happens, how you get back up. Ultimately, I guess I would say you have, what I think I hear you saying is grown your self-confidence, that at the beginning you were taking those hits and you were staying down and it took you long time to get back up, where now you walk out and you self-analyze and go, okay, what part of that was about me and what part of it was about them, right? Which you had to figure out that shift of it not always being about you, it was sometimes about them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that whole concept, you can relate to anything. You can relate it to your relationship. You can relate it to your friendships or any relationship with another person, whether it's professional or not. Yeah, there's a lot of times where everybody's in their own head about what did I do wrong? And how can I fix this? And I'm a terrible person because of A, B, and C. Yeah, a lot of times it's not you at all. There's certain things you cannot change with somebody else. And when you learn to finally move on mentally, quickly, that's when you get over stuff like that.
Right. Okay. And so we haven't dialogued this, but I'm curious because you know how every conversation people walk away from and they immediately have their own concepts about what just happened, right? So yeah. I'm curious. So those of you guys that don't know, Erik and I haven't actually spoken for, I don't even know, when was the last time I saw you, Erik? Do you even know?
No idea. It had to be 20-some years ago.
20-something years ago. And so finally Erik does a lot of these really great Facebook Live videos about marketing. And he said quite a few little things that I listened to literally just 3 weeks ago, driving back and forth to Idaho. So I was like, you know what? I need to reach out to Erik. I have some questions for him about what I do. And then finally we decided to get on the phone and I talked for probably about 45 minutes and he listened and interjected. And when we got off that phone, so I'm going live because, again, what you see is what you get. I hung up that phone going, oh my gosh, I have not talked to him in I don't know how many years. I was rattling off all about me and what I am hoping for, looking to create. And I didn't even ask him any questions about him. I know better than this. what was your dialogue? So I was beating myself up the minute we hit end. What was your dialogue? Because I want people to see there's always two sets of dialogues, and it's the lies we tell ourselves may not always be true. So be honest if that was what you were thinking about me or what your dialogue was.
No, it wasn't that at all. I loved hearing about your story and where you came from, and the whole how you got into the coaching and teaching healthy lifestyles. And that's the whole. One of the guys that I was in the training thing with is a nutrition coach, and he's since actually moved here to Scottsdale. And his kind of background is similar. He teaches people that were in your same position, and someone who's just like not paid attention to their health. And I loved your story. So it wasn't you weren't monopolizing at all. That was great to hear.
See, so that's kind of like I say, I'm gaining so many great nuggets from just this dialogue, but I think we're finding that what the overview of this is, that negative chatter can make or break you. And no matter how much success you have in your life, Erik walks out of a meeting with somebody and immediately most people's dialogue goes to negative before they bring it back around to positive, because we're always, if you're trying to become better and hone your skills, you're looking immediately at how do I change that. And so I think this was a perfect thing to just bring up about how we hung up the phone, and the whole time I was like, oh, I haven't even, and where he's like, great, let's keep this dialogue going. So I guess what I wanted to kind of wrap up with is, like you're talking about, you have had a lot of punches in the face, going down, pulling yourself up from your bootstraps over and over and over. And I always feel like these lessons in life are pivotal moments created for us to choose what our outcome gets to be. And we can lay in the dirt and let life hit us, or we get back up and try something new. So as you asked me, and I've had a couple people ask me, what's the purpose of me creating these stories with the people that I'm on with? I'm not selling anything. I have a lot of people that I'm friends with on Facebook that are working 8 to 5 jobs, very unhappy, or they're even working your own off-roading business that are unhappy, and they just can't figure out how to get out of their own muck to just create a little better life. And not that I'm trying, I'm not going to be bringing people on that are millionaires. They're just people that have figured out and made their life a little better through incremental shifts. So if you were to give those people that are in that space right now, in year and a half into your off-road shop, figuring out what you were doing wasn't working, what would you say to those people that are in that space right now?
Well, I think that, no, I don't think I know that a bad attitude is a decision. It's not something that you have to live with. A great attitude is a decision, and you have to make the decision to be positive. And it sounds, everyone's like, yeah, heard it a million times, but it's so true, is that once you make that click in your head, it's, positive focus. Once there's a way to turn every single negative into a positive, no matter what it is. And when I was taught that, I was like, no, I don't think so. There's things that are extremely negative. And we went through drills, and people would bring things up. What about this? What about that? And our coach at the time would say, because of this. And we would be, oh, I guess you're right. That is a positive. And that's such a conscious decision that when you decide and it clicks in your head, like, I'm not going to be negative. I'm not going to be gossipy. I'm not going to be the one that always looks at the negative side, the guy that's got a problem for every solution. When you consciously try to not be that guy, it's so easy. And then everything else opens up. The reason why I did all that stuff, not only because I thought I was just an average person, but a lot of it was because of income. Because I wanted to make money so I can have freedom. It wasn't about buying shiny shit. It was about having freedom. And since I've made that decision to be positive, to connect with people on the same level, surround myself with people thinking way up here, and I had to make some, cut some social contracts. I had to get rid of some people that were dragging me down. And if you surround yourself with those type of people, they're going to bring you down for sure. And, you know, once I started surrounding myself with the right people, everything started growing as far as everything. And over about a 6-month course, when my business really took off, my own personal business, I doubled my income in about 6 months. And that was what I wanted. And a lot of people aren't in it for the money. It doesn't matter. Whatever you're in it for, whatever that factor is, your happiness, your relationships, is going to double within a short amount of time. And so I work half as much as I did before. I make twice as much money. And that's just because I've consciously thought about it. I use the tools given to me and I stay positive, and it absolutely works.
Okay, so one additional layer to that. So if we have somebody watching this and they are hearing what we're saying, but they are not sure where to click next, like what would be the next step for them, do you have a personal development person that you listen to on YouTube, or a book that you would suggest that they read to start actually being able to digest what you and I are saying here?
Yeah, well, like I said, Sean Whalen is my mentor, and I really do connect with him. He's an interesting guy. So he's not. He teaches men. He really does not teach women. He focuses on his strengths. His strengths are teaching men how to be a bigger, better version of themselves. So that's what he does. He's pretty brash, and he can be a very abrasive dude, which worked for me. He's got a gutter mouth, and he does not hold back one bit, which I like, because he's the most authentic person that you'll ever meet. You're never going to second guess what he's saying. He'll say exactly what he means. So that worked for me. His training is called Lions Not Sheep, and I don't even know what his website is. It's probably lionsnotsheep.com. But reach out to Sean Whalen on Facebook. He's always on Facebook. He's got a couple 100,000 followers on Facebook, and for the guy perspective, he's the guy for sure.
Perfect. And do you do personal development, like listen to things on YouTube or read books, or to kind of keep your head out of your own way? What do you do to keep yourself there?
Yeah, all the time. I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. He's he owns VaynerMedia. It's so complicated, his whole thing, but he is an absolute social media giant. The guy's probably 5 foot tall, but he's one of the biggest guys in social media you can imagine. He's another one of these guys like Sean, that there is no holding back with that dude. I'm reading Expert Secrets from Russell Brunson right now, and it's all about marketing and building funnels and driving traffic to it's a business book, but I've read all those personal development books, The Way of the Superior Man, and Steal Like an Artist, and all those types that Sean recommended. I read those and then built on top of that. And everything that I read is kind of the same things you see going around that a lot of these same like-minded people read. Think and Grow Rich, read that one, which it's great stuff. So yeah, I do a lot of that stuff. I keep on it every week. I do something like that.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that's the key. Is I am finding a resounding similarity that almost everybody that I've talked to that is really creating what they want in their life, they all have read Think and Grow Rich. It's really, it's so old, and a lot of them have read Og Mandino, Greatest Salesman in the World. Those are two ones that I seem to hear that every single person has read that spoke to them to help them make that shift. So I think that if somebody's watching this there and they don't know where to start, those are two great places to start, because it's pretty basic but high level stuff to help you get out of your own way. So with that being said, Erik's given us a lot of his time, and obviously he does do marketing as his real job, even though I think he likes doing what we're doing here. No, I'm kidding. But so Erik, will you just tell them a little bit about what you do and how to reach out to you if they have a need for your business?
Yeah, I'm always on Facebook. I think my friend thing is capped out at 5,000. It may not be, but if you, by all means, send me a friend request. I'll accept it from anybody who's interested. If it caps out, you can always follow me on Facebook. And my website is barmarketingbasics.com. And yeah, it's techniques and tips that are leaning toward bars and restaurants, but 90% of them apply to anybody. They apply to anybody who's got their own business, or almost, wants to have their own business. A lot of it's kind of motivation. A lot of it's instructional. So You know, don't let the small vertical of bars and restaurants leave you out of it. Check it out.
Yeah, because I think I might be reaching out to Eric to help me make the Mind Shifts of Success website to hold.
All right.
So anyway, well, thank you, Eric, for your time. For all of you guys that have listened, I hope that you this helped you make a shift, even just a small shift. Something that was said was meaningful for you. And please comment below on the video to let us know what you thought, what you'd like to hear more of. And just want to thank Eric for his time. So see everybody later. Bye, guys.
Thank you.